Hi everyone, it's Louise Pearson back with you today with a video in my series about when you're the one with a life-limiting illness. And this video is about my patient experience of chemotherapy. And I'm giving you this experience because as a person with cancer myself, with pancreatic cancer, I could find very little out here that really told me some facts about chemo. There were lots of sort of fantastic videos with um, theories and all sorts of things like that. But I wanted to actually find some fairly short, sharp advice about what people's experience was like and how they got through it. And so that's what I'm trying to fill in the gap for you with. As a mental health social worker and a grief counsellor myself. I think that most of us contemplating the idea of chemo find that it's a really scary concept to deal with. We've all heard the stories. They just engender fear in us. I went in sure on my first day that I was going to really come home noticing some changes, that things were going to be totally different for me from that day on, and that they would likely be different for the months ahead while I was on chemo. And so I guess what I found on that first day was that no, it didn't hurt. It hurt a little bit, I guess, going into my cannula, because at first that's what I had, and eventually I was given a port, and that made things very different. But when I was given intravenous drugs, it didn't hurt. It didn't create any nausea. And as a nurse said to me on the day, if you haven't had it in the first couple of days, you may not get any. Well, that was totally different to what I was expecting. Obviously, for some people, the stories about chemo are true, and it is a huge thing to live with. The fatigue can be overwhelming, the vomiting, the diarrhea, the hair loss, and so on. But for myself, the reality hasn't been too terrible. My blood markers have dropped with this lot of chemotherapy. I've tried a couple of different types over the last 2 years. I've had an oral chemo, I've had some infusions, and now I have one where I actually come home with the chemotherapy on me for 2 days and bring it home with me and go back and have it disconnected when it's all gone into my body. I have been lucky, as I said, because it has dropped the blood markers, but I see it as one of the soldiers in my arsenal. I want to see it as one of the weapons that are helping with me. Sometimes, even though I start off with a positive feeling towards it, it drives me mad nonetheless. So, about my experience and side effects. Well, I haven't been able to have strong chemotherapy because my liver didn't tolerate it. So currently I'm on what they call Folferi. It's made up of 2 treatments and I'm having it on a fortnightly basis. Some of the physical side effects that I've noticed are the overwhelming fatigue, and it's not there a lot, but when it hits you, it hits a bit like a freight train and it feels pretty awful at the time. There will be some occasional nausea and diarrhea. I haven't yet thrown up with the chemotherapy, I have to be honest with you. I certainly have had some diarrhea, but it's been managed quite well with something like Imodium, and I've been fine, having taken a couple of tablets or something like that. I've had some interesting side effects along the way. At one stage I had hiccups. At another stage I had bouts of indigestion, and so it would feel like there was a tablet lodged in my chest, or there was something stuck in there and I just couldn't swallow. That was pretty awful, and that lasted for a few days. So that was, every time I ate, every time I wanted to drink and swallow, it hurt a little bit. What I find is that when I've had the chemotherapy, so in the first, 2 days while I'm on the treatment and in the day afterwards, food tastes metallic. Don't eat your favourite foods then, because you won't enjoy them. They are just awful. I also have been given some um, steroid treatment for while I'm on the chemotherapy, and that is there to counteract the nausea and diarrhea. Well, what that does for me is give me some sleepless nights on chemo. So I've got a small bottle with me hooked at my waist. I hook it through my belt loop on my jeans or on my pants and go to work. It's fine, but at night it sits in my bed and I basically hold hands with it all night to make sure that it's just doing what it needs to be doing. And because of the steroids, I'm awake often at night on those couple of nights. So, that's just something to be aware of. Obviously, needing to be mindful of things like mouth ulcers. So, you're washing your salt water mouth out with salt water regularly, cleaning your teeth. Cuts and bruises take a long time to heal, or they seem to, when I'm on chemo. But I guess the other point that I wanted to make is that emotions can be just as challenging as the physical side effects I've found. So I have days when I'm teary or when I can swing very quickly from being absolutely fine to feeling like I'm about to throw a tantrum. Not pretty in a 54-year-old woman, but sometimes exhaustion can do that. Small things will upset me, and I've found that just as challenging, I guess, to see that in myself as the some of the physical side effects. Um, Things that I thought probably wouldn't worry me. My hair is currently thinning. My hair has always been my crowning glory and very curly and bouncy, and I think now it looks horrendous. But I guess it doesn't, and I'm very lucky that it actually is still here. But these sorts of things you will notice from time to time, and I guess we just have to be understanding of ourselves. I noticed that on day 6 out from my treatment, I will be a little bit prone to having some flash forwards, thinking about what this is all going to mean. Is it actually going to work? Has it all been worth it? And by day 7, that's all gone and I'm fine again. And I point these things out because I think if we know that, if we know what to expect, I'm starting to get better at saying, yes, you're at that place now. That's okay. You'll come out of it tomorrow. And so, we need to think about what we can do to help ourselves get through these sorts of days. One of the things that I think we need to do is to pay close attention to the changes that we observe in ourselves. So, like I've just been saying, when do you get your most tired bouts? For me, it's a few days after the treatment. If I know that, I can work with it. It can be knowing that I might get the days that I might get the tummy upsets as well. So just being able to plan for those. If you ask questions, if you're concerned, your concern is most important. Know your after hours numbers. If you get that feeling of indigestion, it's actually quite scary at the time. So being able to ask someone about it can be quite helpful. And also, as I know I've said on these videos lots and lots of times, consider things like your Facebook groups because people are there and they're awake and they're knowledgeable and will answer. For my pancreatic cancer, the Pancreatic Cancer Patient Warriors has been incredible. Keep in mind any health challenges that you have apart from your cancer. So when I was a child, my hypopituitary gland was affected by my first bout of cancer. And so I actually need to take some replacement hormones. When I had my first bout of chemotherapy this time, that put those hormones out a little bit, and so I felt quite sick for a few days. So just keeping your doctors aware of any other challenges that you have can be really important and help you to manage things more easily. I'm a mental health social worker. I'm going to say these things to you. Plan for some fun and normality. You still need to live your life. You still need to see people. I do a lot on my off weekends, and I plan smaller things for the chemo weekend or the weekend after chemo. I make sure I have an out if I need one. So maybe I'm not going to stay for as long at particular events or do as many things, but having some things to make the weekend special or to get on with my life are really what really helps me. Consider keeping a joy journal. So when I've been finding these mood swings really annoying, I've started to write down 3 things each day that have made me happy. It just shifts the focus a little bit and can improve your mood, takes your mind off what's, frustrating and puts it back on the good things. I think importantly, you need to remember that you are the one in control. So remind yourself that you set the boundaries. I refused to take a chemotherapy that was going to cause peripheral neuropathy or nerve damage because as a blind person, I want to be able to read Braille. I want to be able to touch things. So yes, they might have been stronger and more advisable chemotherapies, but I decided that that was something I wasn't prepared to take. You make the decisions about how long the treatment goes for, about when you take your time out from your treatment. In a few weeks, whether my oncologist thinks it a great idea or not, I'm probably going to go from Australia to Canada for a week. But I've decided to do that. And you also make the decisions about what alternative treatments you're open to. So people will rush forward with lots of ideas. You see lots of things on YouTube about sort of, anything from praying to God to, having no sugar at all, changing your diet completely. People have all sorts of ideas. I've found that there are some great people out there who really talk things through well. I'm going to put in a link to this in this video to one of the videos by Dr. Amy, who had, I think, ovarian cancer, and I think she makes a lot of good sense in some of the videos that she does. But the point of the matter is this is your body and your time, and if you're not open to discussing your chemo or other alternative treatments, then that's okay. It's all about you. And at the same time, do your research. If you're concerned or you're wanting to look into these things, then do have a look at them and ask questions of your oncologist. Obviously, consider, as I've already said, talking to others who are in the same boat as you, because lots of people have lots of ideas and will understand things like that. On some days you're totally focused on the statistics and how much this is going to work, how much it's not, and on other days you're going to be feeling really positive, as I often am, and thinking, yep, this is going to buy me some time and that's what I want. I'm hoping you found this helpful. What I want to do is redress this imbalance between the information that's out there and us actually speaking, people with cancer speaking about their experiences, your everyday person, and that's what I'm trying to give you. Keep watching if you found it helpful, like and subscribe, and I will be back soon with some more about what it's like when you're the one with a life-limiting illness.